I woke up that Tuesday morning to the smell of burnt coffee and the sound of my wife Carmen humming in the kitchen. The alarm clock read 4:30, same as always, and my back already ached from yesterday's 12-hour shift on the catwalks. I rolled out of bed, my joints popping like bubble wrap, and shuffled toward the bathroom. 46 years old and feeling every damn one of them. That's what 2 decades of pipe fitting at the Baytown refinery will do to a man. The house was quiet except for Carmen's humming and the low murmur of the television she always kept on while making breakfast. Our boy Travis was still asleep down the hall, probably dreaming about his upcoming baseball game, or whatever 13-year-old boys dream about these days. I splashed water on my face and looked at myself in the mirror. Grey creeping into my beard, lines around my eyes deeper than they used to be, but I was still standing, still working, still providing for my family. I pulled on my jeans and a faded Astros t-shirt, then headed to the kitchen. Carmen had eggs and toast waiting, bless her heart, and she kissed my cheek as she set the plate down. The TV was showing morning news, some blonde anchor with too much makeup talking about traffic on the 610 loop. "You working late again today?" Carmen asked, pouring me coffee. "Probably. Got that catalyst unit maintenance that's running behind. You know how it goes." She nodded, worry creasing her forehead. She hated when I worked the high catwalks, hated the danger, but she never complained. Not once in 23 years of marriage. The news anchor's expression changed, got serious. "Breaking news this morning from Austin. CDC officials are investigating what they're calling containment irregularities at a University of Texas research facility. The facility was handling biological samples as part of a classified federal program when, according to sources, protocols were breached. Officials stress there is no immediate danger to the public. I took a bite of eggs, barely paying attention. Always something on the news to worry about. Viruses, terrorists, politicians. World was always ending according to them talking heads. But then the screen changed. A grainy video, clearly shot on someone's phone. The caption read, "Manifesto posted online early this morning." A man in a mask was speaking, his voice distorted. "We have liberated the pathogen. We have taken what the government created to control us and turned it against them. The Phoenix hand will burn down this corrupt system. What begins in Texas will spread across the nation. You cannot stop what's coming. The old world dies today." Carmen's hand went to her mouth. "My God, Darius, is that real?" Probably some crazy fool trying to scare people. You know how the internet is. But something in my gut twisted. I'd worked around dangerous materials long enough to know when something felt wrong. And this felt wrong. I finished breakfast, kissed Carmen and checked on Travis, who was still snoring in his bed. I ruffled his hair and he batted at my hand without waking up. Good kid. Smart as hell, better than I ever was in school. He was going to go to college, be an engineer or something, not spend his life in coveralls covered in grease and chemical burns. The drive to the refinery took 30 minutes through the pre-dawn darkness. I listened to country music on the radio, trying not to think about that video. Probably nothing. Just another internet hoax. But when I pulled into the refinery parking lot, I saw more security than usual. Guards checking IDs carefully, looking tense. One of them, Bobby Martinez, waved me through. "Morning, Darius. You hear about that Austin thing?" "Saw it on the news. What's the word?" Bobby leaned in close. "Between you and me, corporate sent out an email last night. Said to watch for anyone acting sick. Fever, coughing, confusion. Anyone shows symptoms, we're supposed to report it immediately. They think it's real, that virus thing. Don't know what to think. But they're not taking chances." I parked and grabbed my lunch pail and hard hat. The refinery stretched before me like a steel city, towers and pipes and catwalks reaching into the lightning sky. Flames burned at the tops of flare stacks, turning the morning orange. I'd walked these paths thousands of times, knew every valve and junction, every dangerous corner. This place was in my blood. I headed to the morning briefing in the maintenance shop. My crew was already there, 15 good men who'd worked together for years. There was Big Tommy, 6'5" and 300 pounds of solid muscle. Luis Rodriguez, quiet and efficient. Marcus Webb, who'd been my partner on more jobs than I could count. And the new guy, Jake something, a contractor from Louisiana with nervous eyes. Our foreman, Bill Hutchins, stood at the front looking grim. "All right, listen up. We got a situation. 2 of the overnight crew called in sick, real sick. Puking, fever, some kind of respiratory thing. HR's doing temperature checks on everyone before shift starts." Groans echoed through the room. Nobody liked delays. I know. But that's the new protocol. Line up outside the office, get checked, then we start work. Unit 7 needs that catalyst bed replaced, and we're already behind schedule. Let's move. We filed out, grumbling. The temperature checks were quick, a woman from HR with a digital thermometer sticking it in our ears one by one. When she got to me, she frowned. 99.2. That's borderline. "I always run a little hot," I said. "Had my coffee too close to this, maybe?" She made a note but waved me through. Marcus was behind me, and when she checked him, his temperature was normal. Jake, the new guy, was sweating like a pig, but his temp came back normal too. We geared up and headed to Unit 7. The work was routine, replacing catalyst beds in one of the hydro-treating units. Meant climbing to the 100-foot level on the catwalks, removing the old material, installing new. Dangerous work, but we'd done it 100 times. Marcus and I took the lead, climbing the steel stairs that zigzagged up the outside of the tower. The morning was already getting hot, humidity making the air thick. Below us, the refinery hummed and hissed, a living machine processing crude oil into gasoline and diesel and a dozen other products. We reached the top platform and started setting up. Jake and Luis were right behind us. That's when I heard it. A cough, wet and rattling, like something breaking loose inside someone's chest. I turned and saw Jake bent over the railing, his whole body heaving. He coughed again, and something black sprayed from his mouth. Not blood. Something darker, thicker. "Ain't right," I muttered. "Jake? You okay?" He straightened up and I saw his face. Pale as death, eyes unfocused, sweat pouring down his temples. He opened his mouth to speak, but all that came out was another cough and more of that black stuff. "Boss!" I called down to Bill on the ground. "We got a problem up here. Jake's sick." Jake coughed again, stumbled forward. His hand went to his mouth, and then I watched in horror as he bit down, on his own tongue, hard. Blood mixed with the black substance as he chewed, actually chewed, ripping his own tongue. He made sounds, terrible gurgling sounds, and his eyes rolled back in his head. "Jesus Christ!" Marcus shouted. "What's wrong with him?" Jake lurched toward Marcus, hands outstretched, that ruined mouth hanging open. Marcus backed up against the railing. "Jake, man, stop! You need medical!" But Jake wasn't Jake anymore. Something was wrong with him, something fundamental. He grabbed Marcus's coveralls and pulled him close, trying to bite. I didn't think. I grabbed my Stilson wrench, a 3-foot length of steel pipe wrench that weighed maybe 20 pounds. I swung it hard, catching Jake on the side of the head. The impact made a sound like a hammer hitting a pumpkin. Jake went down hard. Marcus stumbled back, breathing heavy. "What the hell, Darius?" "Look at him." We both looked. Jake was on the catwalk grating, twitching. The side of his head was caved in, bone and brain visible. He should have been dead, but he was still moving, still trying to get up. "That ain't natural," I said, my Texas drawl stretching the words out slow. "That ain't right at all." Then Jake lunged up with impossible speed and grabbed Luis, who'd frozen in shock. His ruined mouth clamped down on Luis's neck, teeth sinking in deep. Luis screamed, a high-pitched sound of pure terror and agony. I swung the wrench again, this time putting all my weight behind it. Jake's head came clean off his shoulders, bouncing once on the grating before tumbling over the edge. His body collapsed, finally still. But Luis was down, blood pumping from the massive wound in his neck. Marcus pressed his hands against it, trying to stop the bleeding, but there was too much blood. Luis's eyes were wide, pleading, and then they went glassy and empty. "Get help!" I shouted down to Bill. "Man down! We need medical now." But when I looked down, I saw chaos spreading across the refinery floor, workers running, someone screaming, a man in coveralls stumbling like he was drunk, then collapsing near Unit 3. Bill's voice came over the radio, crackling with static and fear. "All personnel evacuate," I repeat. "Evacuate the refinery. We have multiple medical emergencies." An explosion rocked the complex, somewhere over by the alkylation unit. Orange flames shot into the sky, black smoke billowing. "We got to get down from here," Marcus said, his voice shaking. He was looking at Luis's body, at the blood everywhere. "Yeah, come on." We started down the stairs, moving fast but careful. A fall from this height would kill you just as dead as whatever was happening to people. Halfway down, I saw movement on a lower catwalk. A woman I recognized, Sarah from operations, was stumbling along the walkway. Behind her were two men, moving wrong, jerky and fast. They caught her, pulled her down, started tearing at her with their hands and teeth. "Don't look," I told Marcus. "Just keep moving." We reached ground level and ran toward the parking lot. All around us, the refinery was descending into hell. People attacking each other, bodies on the ground, fires starting in multiple units. The air filled with screams and that sound, that terrible wet coughing sound. I saw Tommy, big Tommy, who'd worked here 15 years, tackling a younger guy and biting into his face. Saw blood and meat torn away. The young guy's screams cut off gurgling. We made it to the parking lot. Marcus's truck was closer and we ran for it. Behind us, another explosion, bigger this time. The shockwave knocked me forward and I felt heat wash over my back. Marcus got the truck started and we peeled out, tires squealing. The guard shack was empty, the gate hanging open. We drove through and onto the main road. "What the hell was that?" Marcus gasped. "What's happening?" "That virus thing from Austin. It's real. It's here." My phone rang. Carmen's name on the screen. I answered, hands shaking. "Darius." "Thank God. Are you okay?" "I'm alive." "Where are you?" "I'm at the hospital." "Darius, it's chaos here. People coming in sick, attacking staff. We're trying to evacuate, but the roads are jammed. I-10 is completely stopped." My blood went cold. "Where's Travis?" "He's with me. I pulled him out of school when I saw the news. We're together." "Stay there. I'm coming to get you. Don't move." "Darius, I don't think you can get here. The whole city is—" The call cut off. "Carmen?" "Carmen. Nothing. I tried calling back. No signal." "I gotta get to the hospital," I told Marcus. "My family's there." "That's on the other side of town. Roads are probably blocked everywhere." "I don't care. I'm getting to my family." Marcus nodded. "I'll take you as far as I can." "My wife's in Pasadena. I need to get to her too." We drove through streets that were rapidly turning into war zones. Cars crashed into each other, people running in all directions, and those things, those infected people, appearing everywhere, attacking anyone they could reach. We saw a school bus overturned, children's screams coming from inside. We saw a cop shooting at a group of infected, his bullets hitting but not stopping them unless he got a headshot. We saw an old woman being torn apart by what looked like her own family. The traffic got worse as we approached the highway. Cars abandoned everywhere, people fleeing on foot. Marcus pulled over. "This is as far as I can go." I got to head south to Pasadena. "I know. Thanks for the ride." "Good luck, Darius. Hope you find your family." I grabbed my lunch pail, which still had my tools in it, and got out. Marcus drove off, weaving around abandoned cars. I started walking toward the hospital, keeping to side streets when I could. The city was falling apart around me. I saw a convenience store being looted, people fighting over supplies. Saw a man on fire running down the street screaming. Saw things I'll never be able to unsee. The hospital was maybe 5 miles away. Might as well have been 1,000. I'd gone maybe 2 blocks when I saw them. A group of infected, maybe a dozen, stumbling toward me. Their eyes were vacant, mouths hanging open, that black substance dripping from their lips. I ran, ducked into an alley, climbed over a fence into someone's backyard. Behind me, I heard them following, their footsteps and moaning getting closer. I ran through backyards, jumping fences, cutting through garages. My lungs burned and my legs ached, but I kept going. The infected were fast, faster than they should have been. Relentless. I burst out onto another street and almost ran into a woman holding a shotgun. She was standing on her front porch, her face hard. "Get off my property!" she shouted. "Lady, there's infected coming!" I said, "Get off my property!" She raised the shotgun, and I dove behind a car just as she fired. The blast took out the car's window above my head. The infected poured into the street. The woman fired again, hitting one in the chest. It stumbled but kept coming. She fired a third time, this one taking its head clean off. It dropped. But there were too many. They swarmed her porch, and she disappeared under them, her screams cutting off quickly. I ran while they were distracted, my heart hammering. 2 blocks later, I had to stop, gasping for air, my chest tight. I wasn't a young man anymore. This was killing me. I leaned against a wall, trying to catch my breath, when I heard an engine. A truck pulled up, an old Ford with 4 men inside. They looked rough, armed with rifles and pistols. The driver leaned out. "You bit?" "No." "You look like hell." "I'm trying to get to Memorial Hermann. My family's there." The men exchanged looks. The driver shook his head. "Hospital's overrun. Saw it on the news before the stations went dark. Everyone there is dead or infected." No, my wife and boy are there. They're alive." "Buddy, I'm sorry, but—" I pulled my Stilson wrench from my lunch pail and advanced on the truck. "Take me there or get out of my way." The driver's eyes went to the wrench, saw the blood and bits of skull still on it. He put his hands up. "Easy, man. We're not trying to stop you, but you should know what you're walking into." "I know. I don't care." They drove off, leaving me alone on the street. I started walking again, the wrench gripped tight in my hand. I was maybe halfway to the hospital when the sky lit up. Helicopters, military helicopters, flying low over the city. Some had loudspeakers. "All civilians evacuate to designated safe zones. I-10 West and Highway 59 North are closed for emergency use only. All civilians proceed to safe zones immediately. But the highways were parking lots. Nobody was evacuating anywhere." I kept walking, saw more infected, saw more death, saw a man throw his own child to the infected to save himself, saw humanity at its worst. By the time I reached the hospital, it was dusk. The building was dark, windows broken, fires burning on the upper floors. The parking lot was littered with bodies and abandoned vehicles. The emergency room entrance was smashed open. I stepped inside, wrench ready. The ER was a slaughterhouse, blood everywhere, bodies everywhere, infected wandering the halls, feeding on the dead. I moved quietly, trying not to draw attention. I checked every floor, every room, calling Carmen's name in a whisper. I found nurses who'd barricaded themselves in a supply closet, found patients who'd turned into infected and were trapped in their rooms, found horrors I can't describe. But I didn't find Carmen or Travis. On the 5th floor, I found a nurse who was still alive, hiding under a desk. She was young, maybe 25, her scrubs covered in blood. "Please don't hurt me," she whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you." I'm looking for my wife, Carmen Mitchell. She works in the ER. The nurse's eyes filled with tears. The ER staff evacuated when the infected broke through. Some of them made it to the roof, got picked up by helicopter. Others. She shook her head. Was Carmen on the roof? I don't know. I didn't see. I'm sorry. I left her there and headed to the roof access. The stairwell was dark, the emergency lights flickering. I climbed slowly, checking each landing. The roof was empty except for bodies. I checked each one, my heart in my throat. None of them were Carmen or Travis. Maybe they got out. Maybe they made it to one of those safe zones. I stood on the roof, looking out over Houston. The city was burning. Fires everywhere, smoke blotting out the stars. I could hear gunfire in the distance, explosions, screams. My phone buzzed. Battery was almost dead, but a text came through. From Carmen. At I-10 overpass near downtown. Stuck. Can't move. Infected everywhere. I love you. Tell Travis I love him. The message was from 3 hours ago. I-10 overpass near downtown. I knew where that was. Maybe 10 miles from here. I started running. I ran through streets filled with the dead and the infected, ran past fires and crashed cars and people begging for help I couldn't give. Ran until my lungs felt like they were tearing apart and my legs were rubber. I reached the I-10 overpass around midnight. The highway was a graveyard of cars, thousands of them, abandoned or crashed or burned. Bodies everywhere, infected wandering between the vehicles, feeding. I climbed onto the highway and started searching, calling Carmen's name, looking in every car. I found them in a white Honda Civic, 3 cars from the edge of the overpass. Carmen was in the driver's seat, her throat torn out. Travis was in the back, his small body torn to pieces. I fell to my knees and screamed. Screamed until my voice gave out. Screamed until infected started moving toward me. Then I stood up, picked up my wrench, and started killing. I killed infected until the wrench was too slippery with blood to hold. Killed them until my arms wouldn't lift anymore. Killed them until there were bodies piled around me. Then I sat down next to the Civic and waited to die. But death didn't come. The infected avoided me, sensing something broken in me that made me not worth the effort. As the sun rose on the second day, I heard helicopters again. A loudspeaker announcing that Houston was being evacuated, that anyone left in the city should head to the port. I didn't move. Let them evacuate. Let them run. My family was dead. What did it matter? But then I thought about Jake, about how he'd spread the infection, about how someone had created this virus, weaponized it, released it. Someone was responsible for this. Someone had killed my family, and they were going to pay. I stood up, my body screaming in protest, grabbed my wrench, started walking. I needed supplies, weapons, information. I needed to find out who did this and make them suffer. I headed back toward the refinery. If there was anywhere I might find what I needed, it was there. The walk took hours. I moved carefully, avoiding the largest groups of infected. Twice I had to fight, using the wrench to crush skulls. The infected were everywhere now, thousands of them, maybe more. Houston was dead. The refinery was still burning when I reached it. Multiple units on fire, flames reaching hundreds of feet into the air. But the main office building looked intact. I broke in through a side door and headed to the administrative offices. Found computers still running on backup power, started searching files. I didn't know what I was looking for until I found it. An email from corporate, sent 2 days before the outbreak. Subject: Federal Investigation, Austin Incident. I opened it and started reading. The email detailed how the CDC had contracted with a lab at the University of Texas to test a new treatment for Alzheimer's disease. The treatment involved a modified virus that would repair damaged neural tissue. But the virus was unstable, prone to mutation. The government had classified the project and moved it to a secure facility. But someone on the inside had stolen samples, a group calling themselves the Phoenix Hand. domestic terrorists who believed the government was using biological weapons to control the population. They'd released the virus in Austin, then Houston, then Dallas, San Antonio, and other cities across Texas. The virus worked exactly as designed, repairing neural tissue, but the mutations made it aggressive, turning it into something else, something that didn't cure disease but created it, made people aggressive, hungry, mindless, made them into the infected, and it spread, through blood, saliva, even airborne in high enough concentrations. Infection rate near 100%, death rate the same. Time from exposure to turning, 2 to 6 hours. The email ended with a note that federal authorities were implementing containment protocols, quarantine, isolation, and if those failed, sterilization. Sterilization. I knew what that meant. I kept searching and found more. Reports of infected spreading beyond Texas, cities falling across the country, the government preparing for worst-case scenarios, and one name that appeared multiple times in the emails, Marcus Reeves, CEO of Biogen Industries, the company that had developed the original virus. The man who'd sold it to the government, who'd known it was unstable, who'd let it be tested anyway. A man who, according to the latest report, was holed up in a private compound outside Houston with private security, waiting for evacuation. I memorized the address, grabbed supplies from the refinery, tools, weapons, anything useful. Found a truck with keys still in it and drove north. The roads were chaos but passable. Most people were fleeing south to the port or west out of the city. I headed north toward the suburbs where rich people had their estates. I found Reeves's compound after an hour of searching. High walls, security gates, armed guards patrolling. A mansion visible behind the walls, lights still on. I parked a block away and approached on foot. The guards were jumpy, shooting at anything that moved. I watched for a pattern, found a blind spot near the back wall. I climbed over using a drainage pipe, dropping into manicured gardens. Motion sensors triggered lights, but no alarms. The guards were too busy watching for infected. I made it to the house and found a window open on the second floor. Climbed up using a trellis, pulled myself through. The house was obscene. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork worth more than I'd make in 10 lifetimes. While people died in the streets, this bastard lived like a king. I heard voices from downstairs, moved quietly toward them. Marcus Reeves was in his study, talking on a satellite phone. He was in his 60s, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit. I don't care about containment. I care about extraction. The helicopter should have been here an hour ago. No, I am not going to a public evacuation site. Do you know who I am? He listened, his face getting red. Fine. But if I'm not out of here by morning, heads will roll. This whole mess should have been contained in Austin. Someone's getting sued into bankruptcy over this. He hung up and poured himself a drink, didn't even notice me standing in the doorway. Nice place, I said. He spun around, eyes wide. Who the hell are you? Guards. Guards ain't coming. They got problems of their own. I stepped into the room, the Stilson wrench in my hand. Reeves saw it, saw the blood caked on it, and went pale. I have money. Whatever you want, I can pay. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? I want my wife and son back. But since I can't have that, I'll settle for making you pay for what you did. Understanding dawned on his face. The virus. You lost someone. I lost everyone, because of you, because you created that thing and let it out into the world. I didn't release it. That was the Phoenix hand, terrorists. You created it. You knew it was dangerous and you sold it anyway. You're just as guilty. Reeves backed away, hands raised. Please, I'm sorry for your loss, truly, but killing me won't bring them back. No, but it'll make me feel a hell of a lot better. He ran, made it maybe 3 steps before I caught him, the wrench coming down on his shoulder. Bone cracked and he screamed, falling. I hit him again, and again, and again. Took my time, made him suffer, made him feel a fraction of what I'd felt finding my family dead. When I was done, he was barely recognizable as human. The room was painted in his blood. I sat down in his expensive chair and poured myself his expensive whiskey, drank it while looking at his body. It didn't make me feel better. Nothing would ever make me feel better. But at least he'd paid. I left the compound and drove back toward the city. The sun was setting on the second day of hell. I could see military vehicles on the highways now, soldiers in hazmat suits setting up barricades. The radio crackled to life, an emergency broadcast. Attention all remaining Houston residents. Federal authorities have ordered the immediate evacuation of Houston and surrounding areas. A sterilization event is scheduled for 0400 hours. Repeat, Houston will be sterilized at 0400 hours. All residents must evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Sterilization. Nuclear weapons. They were going to wipe Houston off the map. I looked at my watch. 10 p.m. 6 hours. I could run. Try to get out of the blast radius. Save myself. But for what? My family was dead. My city was dead. Everything I'd ever known was gone. I turned the truck around and headed back to the refinery. I walked through the complex one last time, remembering all the years I'd worked here. All the men I'd known, the jobs I'd done. Remembered Big Tommy and Luis and Marcus. Remembered Jake before he turned. I climbed to the top of Unit 7, to the catwalk where it had all started. The city spread out before me, burning like the end of the world. I sat down and watched. At 4 a.m, the sky lit up brighter than the sun. I saw the flash to the south, where downtown had been. Then the north, then the east and west. Multiple warheads, each one vaporizing a section of the city. The shockwave hit seconds later, a wall of superheated air that peeled the skin from my face and the flesh from my bones. I had time for one last thought before the fire consumed me. Carmen, Travis, I'm coming home. Then nothing but light and heat and the end of everything. Houston burned. The infected burned with it. 4 million people, gone in an instant. And across the country, other cities followed. Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. The Phoenix Hand had wanted to burn down the old world. They got their wish.